Doomed in victory, cursed in survival. This is the life of a dreadnought. For Space Marines fight the fiercest battles imaginable, make war with beings of dread, and face the greatest champions of evil that stride the galaxy. Long-lived, but not immortal. Every Space Marine knows, understands that sooner or later their lives will be cut short in bloodshed and battle. By bolt, plasma, flame, or claw, their demise will be one of glorious death. But for some, this is not the end. For those, it is the beginning of a lauded and respected, yet cursed, torturous existence. Bound to serve beyond in prisons of humanity's greatest devisings, damned to be shuttered away within the confines of technologies that transform them into machines of death, doomed to be awoken only in times of greatest need. These are the dreadnoughts of the Imperium of Mankind, Space Marines fallen in battle, grievously wounded beyond all medical care, yet iron of will and capable of mind. These candidates are few, very few. Therein, they are interred in ancient sarcophagi to serve as elders of wisdom or destructive machines of the Emperor's wrath. To live in this way is not to live at all. It is to survive in a haze of pain and death. So begins a dreadnought's new existence, and the nigh impossible struggle to resist the slide into insanity and madness. Welcome one and all, I am Azazel, and for better or worse you have stumbled your way onto the coolest dreadnoughts in Warhammer 40k, the badass and bellicose of this bunch of behemoth bastions of brutality on the battlefield. So do let me know if I've missed out your favourite in this list. I am by no means a lore master, just someone who has a long love of 40k. That and my memory gets shoddier every single year. Also, I am including 30k dreadnoughts in this list, simply because, well, because. Be prepared now. Steel your hearts and gird your minds as we enter the most horrific place imaginable. The place where hope goes to die, and where thirsting gods rack the souls of billions, while directing madness on the stage of our galaxy as easily as puppeteers pull on strings. Welcome to the 41st millennium. Rylanor, Ancient of Rites. The fan-loved, the much-adored, widely revered, and for damn good reason, Rylanor the Ancient. Even newcomers to this hobby should know this incredible dreadnought's name. Some fellas even got together and made a song about it. I'll find it and link it down below somewhere. But why should you know about Rylanor? For he was the only being in the galaxy that forced Fulgrim to change his moisturizer. Aye, Rylanor really messed up his complexion and severely triggered his daddy issues by being the only person to say no to Fulgrim and get away with it. Yes, if you're wondering why Fulgrim sulked for a while in the warp, it's because of Rylanor. At least in my head. But even before that defining moment, he was a legend. Born on Terra, part of the original Emperor's children before their reunification with Fulgrim, fighting with the Emperor, all badassery in and of itself, and worthy of a short series of books from Games Workshop if any writers are listening. But his defining moment was on Istvan III, amidst the ashes of treachery and the fires of fratricide. For he was one of the loyalists on the planet, beset by their brother legionaries for suspicion of being too loyal to the Emperor to follow their respective primarchs in heresy. Forgotten, abandoned, alone, Rylanor was thought perished amidst the thousands of loyalist legionaries on the planet. Trapped in a caved-in hangar, ambushed by brothers he once held dear, Rylanor clung to life within his sarcophagus. There he plotted and planned. Millennia passed, dust-shrouded winds swept over the dead of Istvan. The very name of the planet became lost in time. Rylanor's tools? A Life-Eater virus bomb, unexploded, linked to his dreadnought systems, and a sonic weapon, reforged into a psychic beacon calling out among the stars for one individual, his father. And Fulgrim came. How could he not? A being of narcissistic, self-aggrandizing indulgence, he came for his betrayed son. And there, he spoke of bringing Rylanor back to new life and form with the help of the Prince of Pleasure. When it became clear that Rylanor stood firm and would not succumb to his offers, Fulgrim began to seize the crippled form of Rylanor, to force him into an eternity of dark servitude to the Chaos God. Rylanor, with the aid of some thousand suns sympathetic to his situation, detonated the Life-Eater virus. He rejected his father with his failures and his folly. In a last burst of defiance, the bomb exploded, ending Rylanor, the Ancient of Rites, and the thousand suns which stood there with him. Fulgrim slithered away. A form held together by the dark powers of the Empyrean could not be destroyed by such means. Neither pain, nor hurt, nor injury could come close to breaking Fulgrim's body. But Rylanor scarred Fulgrim in a way no others had. He had denied Fulgrim's magnificence, and that was Ancient Rylanor's final victory. Lord Marest. To fall in battle is the fate of every Space Marine, unless you're a named one. Long-lived, powerful, and able to withstand the most fearsome of foes, true, yet their destiny is to be torn apart by bolter, claw, or plasma in the end. Therefore, all they can hope for is legacy, to ensure that their deeds live long after they have fallen, that their mighty feats alter the course of a battle, of a war, of the galaxy entire. Yet few can say that they have stood against an immortal, a true immortal. Not a perpetual, not a reincarnating slice-and-dice Michael Myers wannabe like Lucius, not even a Primarch, but a true immortal, an alien Xenos of terrible psychic might, whose very form is impossible to destroy. That was the feat of Marest. For 3 millennia ago, an evil arose within the galaxy, a cloud of darkness and perversion that turned 3 whole sectors away from the light of the Emperor and towards the worship of the dark powers of the Pantheon, the Octo Calvariae. This monstrous being with 8 faces, each containing 6 eyes and slit noses, was a psychic being of inexorable strength, the last of its kind in the galaxy. With preternatural might, terrifyingly accurate prognostication, and various gifts from its patron deities, it held the reins of power over millions of souls and twisted them to treachery. The Blood Angels responded, with Marest at their head. The chief librarian of the Blood Angels led the fearsome foray into this nest of blasphemers. With the Octo Calvarie's honor guard dead, they moved in to finish the job. Neither bolt round, nor plasma burst, nor chainsword could slay this beast. Its connection to life was too strong. Ultimately, Marest gave his life to contain this heinous threat to the galaxy, and gave his final commands before being interred in a Dreadnought sarcophagus. The Octo Calvarie was transported to Baal, and a special prison built deep within the Carceri Arcanum. There it would remain, locked away in unending torment, and it remains there still. Marest, on the other hand, demanded that the prison contain only a single entrance, too small for a dreadnought to enter or exit. Within that chamber, his dreadnought was built around him, and for 3 millennia he has guarded this prison, has watched over the creature that cost him his life, and there he will remain until his servos give out, until Baal is destroyed, or until the Octo Calvarie escapes and seeks revenge on the Space Marine that locked it away. The Anchorite. The Anchorite, the legend, the one and only. Mostly because he's really good at saying no to authority figures, and that's something I'm jealous of. The Anchorite lives on the Imperial Cardinal world of Almas, and his tale definitely needs expanding upon, for he is the last true son of Colchis. Born and raised upon the world of Lorgar's teachings, he was one of the first to join the ranks of the Word-Bearers from those days. He, like many others of his legion, proclaimed the divinity of the Emperor and proselytized Lorgar's teachings. He remained loyal to his legion when the Ultramarines broke them on Monarchia, when Lhorgar renounced the Emperor and turned to the worship of the Chaos Gods. The righteous anger of a fanatical son rejected, and in the rejection, the perversion of the path. Yet it was on Calth, serving the heretic cause, that something changed. Self-awareness dawned, the jolt of epiphany amidst the clamour of war down in the depths of Calth. As cousin legionary slaughtered cousin legionary, the Anchorite saw the futility. No longer would eye for an eye serve as a primary motivator, for he could see the cycle of despair and destruction being born. One side breaking the other back and forth across countless ages, the Ouroboros devouring its own tail. To win a fight against a cycle of vengeance, there is only one way: to not fight at all. In the darkness of Calth, he set aside his weapons and waited for death at the hands of the Ultramarines, to be executed for his treacheries. Yet it would not come for him. He was bound in chains, interred in an oubliette, and left to rot for the remainder of the Horus heresy. There, demons came to him, words of honeyed sweetness, of purifying rage, of distractions and diversions to bring him back to the path of heresy. He banished them, as only one of his brethren experienced in the ways of the Word-Bearers could, and then he continued to pray for the souls of his brethren, both the lost and the loyal. Upon the failure of Horus's rebellion, Guilliman learned of his existence, and yet did not kill him. But that did not stop the Anchorite attempting to end his own life. Multiple times, multiple ways. The guilt of the past, the yearning for atonement, the belief that he had failed and betrayed his own god, the true God Emperor, was too much for him. And yet he was too highly valued. His knowledge, his faith, his insight. The ecclesiarchy would not let him step beyond the realms of the living, and after a near-successful attempt at cutting short his own life, interred him within a dreadnought sarcophagus. It is odd that one of the greatest guiding lights of the ecclesiarchy's teachings for the past 10 millennia has been a fallen and redeemed son of Colchis. Yet that is exactly what happened. His teachings and words have shaped and guided 1,000,000 souls, who in turn have moulded and encouraged the spiritual teachings of 1,000,000 more. Yet the Anchorite isn't merely a spiritual teacher. He is so much more. For when his fallen brother of the Word-Bearers, Amatnim, a former legionary of the Iconoclasts from before Lorgar's rediscovery, came to rescue him on behalf of Cor Pharaon, the Anchorite came out of isolation. He stood before the last defenders of Almas, a battered, ancient chassis staring down at Amatnim, his brother Word-Bearers, and a host of never-born allies. He spoke a word of old Colchisian, its meaning lost, but causing agony across the Word-Bearers and their demonic allies. The Anchorite glowed bright with power, taking on a different sight. An ancient, pitiless face, a dozen or more wings of bright light unfurling behind the Anchorite. The light, as bright as the Astronomicon, burned through the Neverborn, reducing them to ash. In his fury and faith did he become a holy horror unimagined, an abomination of faith, a conduit of the anathema himself. And so Almas was saved. Yet here is the kicker. Now, people know. What was once a fiercely guarded secret of the Anchorite, of his spiritual teachings, of his existence, his power, is now out in the open. As for what happens next, well, we'll have to wait for Josh Reynolds for that. Bjorn the Fell-Handed. Bjorn is the straight-talking, slightly sassy grandpa of all Dreadnoughts, and I adore him. Most famously, his line to a few mortals who are awestruck at his presence and, in their opinion, holiness. One of them asks, "You walked in the age of the Emperor?" Bjorn replies, "Walked, ran, pissed, killed. I did it all. I met the Allfather, you know. Fought at his side more than once. I do believe he liked me." He is flippant, grumpy, and overall, having a Dreadnought exasperated at the overall state of the galaxy is brilliant. As for his origins and tales, there is too much to cover in a single entry such as this, from dueling Magnus the Red to saving his Primarch Leman Russ, so I do recommend you read about him yourself. I won't spoil it all here. Suffice to say that Bjorn is the last of his age, the first Great Wolf of the chapter, the second High King of Fenris after Russ. It is his duty to spiritually guide and serve the chapter every time he is awoken, either for tales of remembrance and honour of battles long past, or to defend the Fang and Fenris against those who would tear down the home of the Space Wolves chapter. That, and he has an awesome model, let's be honest. Huron Fal. The Death Guard are a gifted legion, not least of which because they had Nathaniel Garrow and Huron Fal. It was on Istvan III, where the loyal elements of traitor legions were set to be purged before Horus's rebellion could begin in earnest. Among them was venerable Dreadnought Huron Fal, and the captain of the 4th Company, Ulis Temita. There, Saul Tarvitz notified Temita of treachery and the imminent threat of the Life-Eater bombs about to bathe the planet in their toxic death. Temita immediately ordered his men to take shelter within one of the airtight sealed bunkers that lay nearby. Huron Fal urged his friend to run, to take shelter inside quicker, lest he succumb to the virus bomb. He claimed that he would stand outside, as not even the Life-Eater virus would penetrate his sarcophagus. Temita insisted his men go first, until it was too late. Temita ordered the doors sealed just in time, as the Life-Eater virus began to consume him. Huron Fal caught him before he fell, and Temita noticed a leak of dark fluids from inside Huron Fal's sarcophagus. He had lied about his systems, to try and ensure his friend made it to safety without worry. Temita choked out the words, "You lied." To which Huron responded with, "Veteran's prerogative. We'll go together then, shall we?" He carried Temita to a safe distance away from the bunker, the both of them rapidly dying due to the Life-Eater virus. He held his friend close as he spoke. This death is ours. We choose it. We deny you your victory." With that, he overloaded his fusion generator and exploded in the heat and light of a small star. Now, I'm a massive believer that the more grimdark, the better, but I'll confess that this passage always hits me every single time, so if you've not read Flight of the Eisenstein, do please do so. Lhorke the First. Lhorke the First, that's first with a capital letter, mind you, is probably my favourite World Eater besides Kharn, and Kharn will always have my heart for beating the living daylight out of Erebus. Yet even that is not exactly true, for Lhorke was, and forever would be, a warhound. He lived and died as one twice over. He fought with his brothers across the stars, he led them as Legion Master, fell in battle, and was interred within a dreadnought 30 years before Angron was discovered. the first of his kind, before the Dreadnought techniques had been perfected. Ever the war hound, he stood against his Primarch Ongena, fought with other warhounds at Angron's insistence on the implantation of the Butcher's Nails, one of the last voices of reason in a legion that began the spiraling path to madness. Yet, in the culmination of failure, he bent the knee to his Primarch. He was spared the Butcher's Nails. He was a venerated ancient by then already, the risk of surgery too great compared to his loss. Reawoken by Lothar Asarin, he and his Dreadnought brothers, ones broken by technical issues or madness, were called upon to defend the ship from the Ultramarines. There, he is aghast at what his legion became, the purging of the Loyalists, the war against the Imperium, yet still he marched to his duty. Also quickly adding that one of his brother Dreadnoughts wakes up insane, so Lhorke does fire his combi bolter at his brother and beat him down with his Contemptor Dreadnought fists. An act that I thought was hilariously cool. But his final act of courage, that forever marks him down as one of the best of Dreadnoughts, is that of trying to save his father, and to kill Lorgar Aurelian. For Angron fights his brother Guilliman. Lorgar directs the tumultuous powers of the warp to suffuse Angron, to remake him in essence and bring about his ascension to Demon Primarch. The last of the World Eater's Psykers detect this, and as one, they attempt to fight Lorgar and stop this forced fate upon their Primarch. At that moment, they request the aid of Lhorke. Together, with psychic powers and the sheer brutality of Lhorke's Contemptor Dreadnought body, they fight Lorgar until he is broken and bleeding. They surround him and prepare to finish the job, to end the ritual before their Primarch is altered forever. Yet they were too late. Lhorke turned to see his Primarch and saw the beginning of what Angron would become. An avatar of rage incarnate, of blood and bone and brass, dancing to the tune of masters behind the veil of the warp. He spoke only one word: "Sire," before Angron's claw rent the Dreadnought in two, and Lhorke's true body broke on the ground. He never saw that final metamorphosis of his father, and perhaps that is for the best. Until this point, Lhorke had grappled with the fate of the Warhounds, the World Eaters, and struggled to make the best sense that he could out of a terrible situation. To see his father as a demon Primarch would have brought him to a new level of madness, one that, I believe, Lhorke did not deserve. And so ended Lhorke the First. Thank you, and there we go. 6 of my favourite Dreadnoughts from Warhammer 40k/30k. Is it comprehensive? Not at all. For some reason, Dreadnoughts seem to have some of the best characters. So should I do this entry again? Include Cassian Vaughn in there, Bakarath. Did I miss any Dreadnoughts that you think should have been included? Do comment down below if you think of any other Dreadnoughts you'd like to see mentioned in the future. Of course, the usual spiel: like and subscribe, send to a friend, share me on Reddit, all that. I'll be doing giveaways every time I reach a milestone, so by helping me build the channel, you also have a chance to get some nice stuff. Also, I'm looking at trying to do a collaboration on some episodes I'm writing. Who would you like to see on those? Obviously, the big creators are slightly out of my league, but if you have any smaller creators that you think could be dramatic and fun for a collaboration, do let me know. I'll contact them when I can. With that said, I do hope you enjoyed some escapism from reality. For that's why we're here, isn't it? Until next time.